The throne room was silent. It had been silent for 6 long months. Queen sat on her crystal seat, her tall body perfectly still. She was not moving, but inside, her heart was breaking over and over again. The people were like living crystals. They reflected light in beautiful colors. Queen usually glowed with soft purple and blue, but today, and for many days before, her light was dim and gray. The whole empire could see their queen was in pain. "Your Majesty," General spoke softly. He was a large warrior, his crystal body from many battles. He stood at the bottom of the throne steps. "The council asks when you will hold the final ceremony." Did not answer at first. Her eyes looked far away, past the walls, past the planet, into the empty space where her daughter was lost. "There will be no ceremony," she finally said. Her voice was quiet but firm. General shifted uncomfortably. "My queen, it has been 6 months since the battle. Princess's ship was destroyed. We searched for 3 months. We found nothing. The tradition says—" "I know what tradition says." His voice was sharp now, like breaking glass. The sound echoed in the empty room. She took a breath and spoke more softly. "I know, but I cannot say goodbye, not without her." Bowed his head. He understood her pain. He felt it too. He was the one commanding the fleet that day. The day everything went wrong. The war with the Collective had lasted 12 years. 12 long years of fighting over rocks and minerals in space. Both sides lost many ships and many lives. And then, finally, both sides were tired. They agreed to meet and talk about peace. Princess was young, only 47 cycles old. For humans, she would be like a 16-year-old girl, but was smart and kind. She believed in peace more than anyone. She volunteered to go on the diplomatic mission to meet with the leaders. She said she wanted to help, whispered, remembering. She said young voices should speak for the future. General remembered too. He remembered giving the order to protect the princess's ship. He remembered watching the sensors as they traveled through the shattered nebula. He remembered the moment when everything exploded into chaos. "They attacked without warning," said, his voice heavy with old anger and guilt. "They fired on our escort ships first. We tried to protect her vessel. We tried so hard." The battle was fast and brutal. Ships exploded in the dark space. Weapons fire lit up the nebula like lightning. Princess's diplomatic ship had no heavy weapons. It was built for peace, not war. When the enemy missiles came toward it, General ordered 3 of his ships to block the attack. 2 of those ships were destroyed. The third was badly damaged, but some missiles got through. "I saw her ship break apart," continued. He had told this story many times, but it never got easier. "I sent rescue teams immediately. We searched through all the debris. We found pieces of her ship. We found bodies of her crew, but we never found Princess." Closed her eyes. She had heard this story many times too. Every time she hoped the ending would change. It never did. "The escape pods," she said. "You said some escape pods were launched." "Yes, my queen. We detected 3 pods launching before the ship broke up. We recovered 2 of them. The crew members inside were alive, but the third pod paused. The third pod's signal disappeared. It might have gone deeper into the nebula, or it might have been destroyed. We searched for 3 months. Every ship, every sensor, every soldier. We found nothing. 3 months ago, the war officially ended. Both sides were too exhausted to continue. A treaty was signed, but there was no celebration. Too many were lost. And for Queen, the greatest loss of all was her daughter. "The people are worried about you," said gently. "They see your light fading. They want to mourn with you. The final ceremony would help everyone begin healing." Stood up slowly. She was very tall, even for a. She walked to the large window that showed the stars outside. Somewhere out there in all that darkness was her daughter, or at least she hoped so. "When I sleep, I dream of her," said. "I dream that she is alive somewhere, waiting for someone to find her. I dream that she is calling for me and I cannot hear her. How can I hold a ceremony that says she is gone forever? How can I stop hopping? Did not know what to say. He was a soldier. He understood battle and duty and sacrifice, but he did not understand how to help a mother's broken heart. Hope can be a gift or a curse, he finally said. I do not know which it is for you, my queen. Pressed her hand against the cold glass. Then I choose to let it be a gift. I choose to believe. Until I see her body with my own eyes, until I know for certain, I will believe my daughter is alive. And if she is not, asked quietly, then I will have hope until my last day, said. That is a mother's right. General bowed deeply. He could not argue with that. He left the throne room, leaving the queen alone with her thoughts and her dim, gray light. Outside the palace, the people went about their lives. The war was over. Slowly, they were rebuilding. But everyone knew their queen was not herself. They saw her light had changed. They whispered in the streets and in their homes. The queen has lost her shine, they said. She cannot let go of her daughter. Some thought she was being foolish. 6 months was a long time. The princess was surely dead, but others understood. They had lost family too. They knew that sometimes hope was all you had left. In the royal gardens there was a statue of Princess. It was built 3 months ago when the war ended. The statue showed her as she was, young, smiling, full of life. Every day Queen visited this statue. She would stand there for hours, not speaking, just looking at her daughter's face frozen in crystal. The gardener, an old named Bora, watched the queen from a distance. She had served the royal family for 200 years. She had seen Queen as a young princess herself. She had watched grow from a small child to a beautiful young woman. She is waiting for a miracle, Bora said to herself. But miracles do not happen in this galaxy, not anymore. The sun set on Eris Prime, the capital world of the Empire. The sky turned from blue to purple to black. Stars appeared, thousands and thousands of them. Queen stood at her window, looking up at them all. Somewhere in all that vast emptiness among all those stars was the shattered nebula. It was far away, dangerous and full of debris from the war. No one went there anymore. It was a graveyard of ships and dreams. But the queen did not know that at that very moment, in that very nebula, something was happening. A ship was moving slowly through the debris field. A ship that did not belong to a human ship. And inside that ship was someone who did not yet know he was about to change everything. The queen stood at her window, waiting for a miracle she did not truly believe would come. But sometimes, miracles come from the most unexpected places. The ship called Second Chance was small, old, and covered in patches from 100 repairs. It moved slowly through the shattered nebula like a tired animal picking through garbage. Inside the ship, Wu sat in the pilot's seat, his eyes scanning the sensor screens. Was human, 34 years old, with tired eyes and rough hands. His hair was messy, and he had not shaved in a week. He looked like someone who lived alone and did not care much about appearances, and that was exactly what he was. Come on, he muttered to the sensors. There has to be something valuable here. Humans were new to the galaxy. Only 80 years ago they made first contact with alien species. Most aliens thought humans were strange. They were not as strong as they were not as smart as they were not as fast as but humans had one quality that surprised everyone. They never gave up. Was a salvage operator. That meant he searched through old battlefields and debris fields looking for things to recover. Sometimes he found valuable metals. Sometimes he found lost cargo. Sometimes he found old ships he could repair and sell. It was not a good life, but it was his life. He had been working in the shattered nebula for 2 weeks. Most people avoided this place. It was dangerous. Debris moved unpredictably. Old mines floated in the dark, still active and deadly. Radiation from the battle made sensors unreliable, but knew that danger meant opportunity. Where others would not go, valuable things waited to be found. His computer beeped, looked up quickly. The sensor was showing something. Finally, he said, But when he looked closer, his excitement faded. It was not valuable cargo. It was just another piece of debris. He had been finding those all day, broken metal, destroyed ship parts, nothing useful. He was about to turn back when the sensor beeped again. This time it was different. A pattern, a repeating signal, very faint, almost impossible to hear, but it was there. "What is that?" Leaned forward, adjusting the controls. "A beacon." Beacons were emergency signals. Ships in trouble sent them out automatically, calling for help. But this beacon was very old. The signal was so weak that sensors almost missed it. It had probably been broadcasting for months. Most salvage operators would ignore it. Old beacons usually meant dead ships and dead crews. No profit in that, but felt something stir in his chest, curiosity, and something else, something that made him human. Could be survivors, he said to himself. Probably not, but could be. He changed course, pointing his ship toward the beacon's source. The computer warned him about the debris density. He ignored it. His ship moved carefully through the floating wreckage of old battles. Pieces of destroyed warships drifted past like ghosts. It took 2 hours to reach the beacon. When finally found it, he stopped his ship and stared. A ship was wedged into an asteroid. The asteroid was large, maybe a mile wide. The ship was buried halfway into the rock as if it had crashed there at high speed and gotten stuck. The ship was beautiful once, could tell. It had elegant lines and was made from some kind of crystal material, but now it was broken. Cracks ran across its hull. One wing was completely missing. "That's a ship," said. He recognized the design. "Diplomatic class, I think." He checked his records. 6 months ago there was a big battle here. The Yen fought in this exact area. A princess was killed. Remembered hearing about it on the news. It was a big story. The princess was young and believed in peace. Her death made the war worse for a while. "Is this her ship?" wondered. He moved his ship closer, using careful thruster bursts. The beacon was definitely coming from the crashed vessel. Put on his space suit and checked his air supply. 2 hours. That should be enough. He opened the airlock and floated out into space. The silence out here was complete. No sound except his own breathing inside the helmet. He used his suit's jets to fly toward the crashed ship. Up close, the damage was worse. The ship's hull was torn open in several places. Scorch marks showed where weapons had hit it. This ship had been attacked and destroyed, but somehow it had survived long enough to crash into the asteroid. Found an opening in the hull and pulled himself inside. His helmet light cut through the darkness. Everything was destroyed. Equipment was smashed. The walls were cracked. He floated through the corridors, following the beacon signal. Bodies, he found them in the pilot area. 3, frozen in death, still strapped into their seats. Closed his eyes for a moment. He never liked this part. Finding the dead always reminded him of things he wanted to forget. "I'm sorry," he said quietly, even though they could not hear him. "I'll report your location. Your families will know what happened to you." The beacon was stronger now. It was coming from deeper in the ship. Followed it, pulling himself through narrow passages. The ship's emergency lights still flickered weakly in some places, running on backup power that should have died months ago. He found the escape pod bay. 3 pods were gone, launched during the emergency, but there was a 4th pod still in its dock. That was strange. Why didn't it launch? Floated closer. The pod's outer door was closed, but through the small window he could see something inside. A light, a green light. That meant the pod was still active. His heart started beating faster. He checked the pod's external panel. The controls were dead, but there was an emergency release. He pulled it. Nothing happened. "Come on," growled. He pulled harder, still nothing. The release was jammed. He looked around and found a metal bar in the debris. He wedged it into the release mechanism and pulled with all his strength. Metal groaned. Then, with a sudden snap, the door released. Air hissed out, old air that had been trapped for months. pushed the door open fully and pointed his light inside. A stasis pod, the medical kind. It was built into the escape pod center. Through the frosted glass could see a figure inside, smaller than the others he had seen, younger. The stasis pod's display panel was still working barely. Read the information. Life signs weak but present, power critical, time remaining unknown. "You're alive," whispered. "You're actually alive." He looked closer at the figure. She was young, her crystal body showing colors of soft pink and white. On her forehead was a small crown symbol, a marking. Had seen that symbol before in news reports. "Oh no," he said. "You're her, your princess." His mind raced. Everyone thought she was dead. The whole empire mourned her. The queen refused to accept her daughter's death. And here she was, alive, frozen in stasis for 6 months, hidden in a crashed ship in the middle of nowhere. He checked the stasis pod's power. Critical. The battery was almost empty, maybe days left, maybe hours. If the power died, the princess would die too. Had a choice. He could leave, report the location, and let someone else deal with it. He could try to sell this information. It was worth millions. Or he could do something incredibly stupid and dangerous. He thought about his ship. It was small, not meant for passengers. He thought about the distance to space. Very far. At least 10 days, even using the dangerous routes. He thought about the risk. Getting caught with a royal body would be bad. Getting caught with a living princess would be worse. He could be accused of kidnapping. But then thought about something else. He thought about a girl, a young girl with a bright smile. His sister, Myra. She died 7 years ago in a transport accident. Was not there. He never got to say goodbye. He never got to save her. He looked at Princess' sleeping face through the frost. "I couldn't save my sister," he said quietly, "but maybe I can save you." Started working. He disconnected the stasis pod from the escape pod. It was heavy and awkward, but his space suit gave him extra strength. He maneuvered it carefully through the crashed ship and out into space. Then he slowly, very slowly, brought it to his own ship. Getting it through the airlock was hard. Getting it secured in the cargo bay was harder, but worked without stopping. He connected the stasis pod to his ship's power supply. The display panel flickered, then stabilized. Power was no longer critical. Sat down in his pilot's seat and looked at the navigation computer. 10 days to space if he took the safe routes. But the princess did not look like she had 10 days. The stasis pod's medical system showed her condition deteriorating. She needed real medical help soon. "Okay," said, "let's see what this old ship can do." He plotted a course that no sane pilot would take, through unstable wormholes, through areas still full of old mines, through space controlled by the collective, the same people who attacked her in the first place. The computer warned him about all the dangers, ignored every warning. "Second chances," he said, looking at his ship's name painted on the wall. "That's what we do." He fired up the engines and left the shattered nebula behind. Inside the cargo bay, Princess slept in her crystal coffin, not knowing that a human stranger had just decided to risk everything to save her life. Queen, sitting on her throne far away, felt something, a small flutter in her heart. Hope, perhaps, or maybe just imagination. She looked up at the stars and made a wish she had made 1,000 times before. "Come home," she whispered. "Please come home." Ship traveled fast through the darkness of space. Too fast, maybe. The engines were running hot, making noises they should not make, but pushed them harder anyway. Every hour mattered. Every minute mattered. It had been 3 days since he found Princess. 3 days of flying without sleep, checking her stasis pod every hour, watching the medical display with growing worry. The princess's condition was not getting better. The readings were slowly dropping. She was dying, even in stasis. "Hold on," said, looking at her sleeping face through the glass. "Just hold on a little longer." He was exhausted. His eyes hurt. His back hurt from sitting in the pilot's seat so long, but he drank more coffee and kept going. This was what humans did. They kept going when any sensible species would stop. The navigation computer beeped, looked at the display and cursed. He was approaching collective space. This was the fastest route to territory, but it was also the most dangerous. The N had just stopped fighting. The peace treaty was new and fragile. Everyone was suspicious of everyone. "Maybe they'll just let me pass through," said. He did not believe it, but hope was free. He was wrong. 30 minutes after crossing into space, his sensors showed 3 ships approaching fast. Military ships, patrol vessels. "Attention, unidentified cargo ship," a voice said over the radio. The translator made the language sound cold and mechanical. "You are in restricted space. Stop your engines and prepare to be boarded." His hand hovered over the controls. He could stop. He could let them board. He could explain everything. But that would take time. Hours, maybe days. The princess did not have days. "This is the cargo ship Second Chance," replied. "I'm just passing through. I'm not carrying weapons or contraband. Please let me continue." "Negative," the voice said. "All ships must be inspected. This is non-negotiable. Stop your engines now." Looked at the stasis pod's display. The medical readings were getting worse. The princess's life signs were dropping faster now. He made a choice, a human choice, a stupid, stubborn, impossible choice. "I'm sorry," said, "but I can't stop." He did not wait for a response. His hands moved fast over the controls. The ship's engines roared. He dove down, changing course suddenly. The 3 patrol ships were fast, but they were not expecting him to run. "Stop immediately," the voice shouted, "or we will fire." "Fire at me all you want," muttered, "but you'll have to catch me first." The ships gave chase, pushed his engines to maximum. Red warning lights flashed on his control panel. The ship was not built for this kind of speed, but was not built to give up. Weapons fire streaked past his ship. Bright blue energy bolts that would tear his hull apart if they connected. Jerked the controls, making his ship dance sideways. Another bolt missed by meters. "Come on, old girl," he said to his ship. "One more miracle." He flew toward a nearby asteroid field, the Crimson Belt it was called. Thousands of red-colored asteroids tumbling through space. Most pilots avoided it. The asteroids moved unpredictably. One collision would destroy a ship. Flew straight into it. "He's crazy," one of the pilots said. Could hear them on the radio. "No one flies through the Crimson Belt." "Then you're not going to like what I do next," said. He turned off his shields and diverted all power to engines. The ship moved even faster. Asteroids rushed past on all sides, so close he could see the details of their rocky surfaces. His reflexes were pushed to the limit. Left, right, up, down. Every second was a chance to die. The ships followed, but they were more careful. They had shields up. They flew slower. Used that advantage. He took risks they would not take. He flew through gaps they thought were too small. He used every trick a human pilot could think of. One ship got too close to an asteroid. The rock clipped its wing. The ship spun out of control and had to retreat. 2 ships left. His console beeped urgently. A warning. An asteroid was coming straight at him, too big to dodge. He fired his forward thrusters at full power. The ship flipped backward, engines pointing forward. He fired the engines. The ship stopped suddenly, brutally. The asteroid passed in front of him, so close he could have touched it. The 2 ships could not stop in time. They had to fly around the asteroid, losing precious seconds. Flipped his ship back around and accelerated again. He was pulling ahead. Then his ship shuddered. A hit. One of the ships got a lucky shot. It was not a direct hit, but it was enough. Warning alarms screamed. Hull breach in the cargo bay. Not near the stasis pod, thankfully, but bad enough. Air was leaking out. "No, no, no," said. He sealed the cargo bay doors, isolating the breach. The stasis pod was secure, but he was losing air pressure. He had maybe an hour before it became critical. He could not fight anymore. He had to run. He found what he was looking for, an unstable wormhole. The sensors showed it clearly, a swirling purple tear in space. These wormholes appeared and disappeared randomly. They were extremely dangerous. No one knew where they led until you went through. You could end up anywhere or nowhere. "This is a bad idea," said. "This is a really bad idea." He flew straight toward it. "Pull back," the pilots shouted. "That wormhole is unstable. It will tear your ship apart." "Maybe," said, "or maybe it will save a life." He entered the wormhole at full speed. Reality twisted around him. Colors that should not exist flashed past his windows. His stomach felt like it was turning inside out. The ship groaned and shook. For a moment, thought he was going to die. Then suddenly he was through. Different stars, different space. The navigation computer went crazy trying to figure out where he was. The ships did not follow. They were gone, was alone again. He checked the damage. The hull breach was sealed with emergency foam. Life support was working barely. The engines were damaged but functional, and most importantly, the stasis pod was still active. Princess was still alive. "Where are we?" wondered aloud. The computer finally figured it out. He had jumped forward. The wormhole had thrown him closer to space. He was now only 5 days away instead of 7. The crazy gamble had worked. But there was a problem, a new problem. The computer detected a communication trying to reach him. It was from human territory. Ambassador Sora had sent her a message 2 days ago asking for help getting through space. She was finally responding. "Wu, this is Ambassador Sora. I received your message about carrying a VIP passenger. I've been negotiating with the collective for safe passage, but I just received a report that you engaged in combat with patrol ships and fled through an unstable wormhole. Is this true?" Rubbed his face. He was in trouble now. "Yes, Ambassador," he replied. "It's true, but I had no choice. My passenger is dying. I couldn't wait for negotiations." There was a long pause. Then Sora's voice came back, and she sounded both angry and impressed. "You're either incredibly brave or incredibly stupid. Maybe both. They are furious. They've issued a warrant for your arrest. They think you're a smuggler or a spy. I can try to help, but you've made this very difficult." "What about getting to space?" asked. "Can you help with that?" Another pause. "I can try to send a message ahead, smooth the way. But you need to tell me who your passenger is. If I'm going to risk my career helping you, I need to know everything." Looked at Princess sleeping in her crystal coffin. He had been avoiding this moment. Once he told anyone who she was, everything would change. It would become political. It would become complicated. But he was out of options. "Her name is," he said quietly, "Princess, the princess everyone thinks is dead." The silence on the other end lasted so long that thought the connection was broken. Sora finally said, her voice very serious, "If you're lying to me, if this is some kind of joke." "It's not a joke," interrupted. "I found her in the shattered nebula in a stasis pod. She's alive, but barely. She needs medical treatment within 5 days or she's going to die. I'm taking her home." "Do you understand what you're carrying?" Sora asked. "Do you understand the political implications? The war just ended. The Queen has been in mourning for 6 months. If you're wrong, if this is not really the princess." "It's her," said firmly. "I know it's her." "How can you be sure?" "Because I saw her face, because I read the ship's logs, because I feel it." Surprised himself with the emotion in his voice. "Ambassador, I know this sounds crazy. I know it's impossible, but I'm asking you to trust me. A mother lost her daughter. I found her. I'm bringing her home. Please help me." Sora was quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was softer. "My grandmother always said humans have a gift. We believe in things that seem impossible. We do things that seem foolish. And sometimes, just sometimes, we make miracles happen." She paused. "Okay, I'll help you. I'll send word ahead to the. I'll try to calm down but you need to fly fast and avoid any more trouble. Can you do that?" "I can try," said. "That's the most human answer possible," Sora said with a small laugh. "Good luck, and if you really do have Princess, if you really are saving her life, you're going to change history." The transmission ended, sat back in his seat. 5 days. 5 days to cross the remaining distance. 5 days to keep the princess alive. 5 days to avoid capture, avoid more fights, avoid any more disasters. He looked at his ship's name again. Second Chance. "We've both had second chances," he said to the sleeping princess. "Let's make sure we don't waste them." He set course for Eris Prime and pushed the engines forward once more. The ship complained, but it kept going. Just like its pilot, just like all humans. They kept going even when it was impossible, especially when it was impossible. The Second Chance limped into space 5 days later. The ship was barely holding together. Smoke came from one engine. The hull had 3 new holes patched with emergency foam. The shields were offline, but had made it. "Defense Fleet, this is human cargo ship Second Chance," said into the radio. His voice was rough from exhaustion. He had not slept in 2 days. "I'm requesting emergency landing clearance on Eris Prime. I have a medical emergency." The response was immediate and cold. "Unidentified vessel, you are entering restricted space. State your purpose and cargo." "My cargo is," paused, "how do you say this? My cargo is Princess. She's alive. She's in critical condition. I need to land immediately." Silence. Long silence. Then multiple voices talking at once on the military channel. Could not understand all of it, but he heard the word impossible several times. "Human vessel, remain where you are. Do not approach the planet. If you move, we will fire. Do you understand?" "Yes," said, "but please hurry. She doesn't have much time." Within minutes, 20 warships surrounded his small cargo ship. Their weapons were charged and pointed at him. Sat very still, hands away from the controls. He watched the stasis pods display. The medical readings were critical now. Princess had maybe 6 hours left, maybe less. A new voice came over the radio. Older, deeper, full of authority and barely controlled emotion. "Human, this is General of the Imperial Fleet. You claim to have Princess aboard your vessel. If this is a lie, if this is some cruel joke, I will personally—" "It's not a lie," interrupted. "I found her in the shattered nebula 6 days ago. She was in a stasis pod in her crashed ship. Please, General, I know this sounds crazy, but you have to believe me. She's dying. Every minute we waste is a minute she doesn't have." "We received a message from a human ambassador, Sora," General said. "She vouched for you. That is the only reason you are still alive, but I need proof. Send us your ship's sensor logs. Send us everything." Sent everything. Video footage of the crashed ship, scans of the stasis pod, medical readings, the ship's identification codes, everything he had. There was a long, tense silence as they reviewed the data, stared at the stasis pod. The princess looked peaceful, but the medical display told a different story. Her life signs were dropping faster now. 5 hours, whispered. "Come on, decide." Finally, General's voice came back. It was shaking. "The data, it appears genuine. The ship identification matches Princess's vessel. The biological readings are consistent with royal family genetics. How is this possible?" "I don't know," said, "but it's real. She's real. Please let me land." "Stand by. I must speak with the Queen." More waiting. Watched the clock. 4 hours and 50 minutes. 4 hours and 40 minutes. Each minute felt like an hour. Then the radio crackled again. This time it was a different voice. Female, powerful, filled with desperate hope. "Human," Queen said, "is my daughter truly alive?" Felt tears in his eyes. He was so tired and emotional that he could not stop them. "Yes, Your Majesty," he said. "She's alive. I don't know how she survived 6 months in that stasis pod with almost no power, but she did. She's a fighter like her mother." breath caught. Even over the radio could hear her crying. "Bring her home," the Queen said. "Bring my daughter home." The warships parted. A clear path opened to the planet below, flew down carefully. His ship was shaking badly now. The engines were seconds away from complete failure, but he kept it together. He had come too far to crash now. "You can do this," he said to his ship. "Just a little more." The second chance descended through the atmosphere of Eris Prime. The planet was beautiful, crystal cities that reflected light like diamonds flew toward the capital, toward the royal palace. The entire city was watching. News had spread instantly. The impossible had happened. The dead princess was returning home. Landed on the palace's emergency medical platform. The moment his ship touched down, the engines died completely. Perfect timing. Medical teams in white uniforms rushed forward. The cargo bay doors opened, and there inside was the stasis pod containing Princess. The medical team stopped when they saw her. Some of them cried. They had prepared her funeral 6 months ago, and now she was here, alive, returning from death itself. "Move," the head doctor shouted. "Get her to the medical center now." They carefully lifted the stasis pod and rushed it inside. Tried to follow, but guards stopped him. "You must wait here," one guard said. "But I—" "Wait here," the guard's voice was firm. Stood on the landing platform watching them take the princess away. He felt empty suddenly. For 6 days, his entire world had been keeping her alive. Now she was gone, and he did not know what to do with himself. General approached. He was even bigger in person, with scars covering his crystal body. He looked at with an expression could not read. "You are either the bravest human I have ever met, or the luckiest, or the most foolish," General said. "Possibly all three." "I just did what anyone would do," said. "No," said firmly. "You did what no one else did. For 6 months we searched. We sent our best ships, our best sensors, our best soldiers. We found nothing. We gave up. But you, a human salvage operator in a broken-down cargo ship, you found her. You saved her. You fought through space. You risked everything. This is not what anyone would do. This is what only a human would do." Did not know what to say to that. He was just tired. "Am I under arrest?" he asked. "They want me for fleeing their patrol ships." "That is being handled," said. "But yes, you must stay here for now. You are not a prisoner, but you are not free to leave either. There are many questions. Many people want to speak with you. Do you understand?" "I understand." Guards escorted to a waiting room inside the palace. It was luxurious, crystal walls, soft chairs, a window overlooking the city. Collapsed into a chair. Within seconds he was asleep. He woke up hours later. A guard was shaking his shoulder. "The Queen wishes to see you," the guard said. Followed the guard through beautiful hallways filled with light. They came to a large room, a medical center. Through the windows could see doctors working around a bed. Princess was out of the stasis pod, lying on the bed, hooked up to many machines. Queen stood at the window watching her daughter. When she heard enter, she turned. She was incredibly tall and majestic. Her crystal body glowed with colors had never seen, blues and purples and colors that had no names. But her eyes, despite being so different from human eyes, showed the same thing any mother's eyes would show. Love and relief and joy and fear all mixed together. "You are Wu," said. It was not a question. "Yes, your majesty," bowed. He did not know the proper way to bow to an alien queen, so he just did his best. "The doctors say she will live," said, looking back at her daughter. "She is weak. She will need time to recover, but she will live because of you." "I'm glad," said simply. "Why?" asked, turning back to him. "Why did you risk so much? You could have left her there, you could have sold the information, you could have demanded a ransom. Why did you bring her home?" Thought about how to answer. He thought about all the complex reasons and all the simple ones. Finally, he just told the truth. "I had a sister," he said. "Her name was Myra. She was 16 when she died. There was a transport accident. I was away working. I got the news 3 days later. I never got to say goodbye. I never got to save her." He looked at the princess through the window. "When I found your daughter, I thought about Myra. I thought about my mother and how she cried for months. I thought about how I would give anything, risk anything, do anything to have had a second chance to bring my sister home. So when I found your daughter, I did what I wished someone had done for me. I brought her home to her mother." Tears fell down Queen's face. They were actual tears, clear and crystal, that left glowing trails down her cheeks. "You have given me back my reason for living," said. "You have given my people their princess. You have given hope to an empire that had forgotten what hope felt like." She paused. "There are no words in your language or mine that can properly thank you." "You don't have to thank me," said. "Just let me see her wake up. That's all I want, just to know she's okay." Nodded. "Then you will stay, as my guest, until she wakes, and beyond if you wish." They stood together at the window, watching the doctor's work. Queen and commoner and human, mother and the stranger who saved her child. Inside the medical room, Princess' eyes flickered. The doctors noticed immediately. They called out to each other. Queen pressed her hands against the window. The princess's eyes opened slowly. She looked confused, frightened. Then she saw her mother through the window. Recognition flooded her face. "Mother," she said. The word was weak, barely a whisper, but it was heard. Queen rushed into the room. She held her daughter's hand. They spoke in their own language, words could not understand. But he did not need to understand the words. He understood what he saw. A family reunited, a daughter returned, a mother's hope fulfilled. Smiled. For the first time in 6 days, he felt like he could breathe properly. He had done it. Against all odds, against all logic, he had done it. He had brought her home. 3 months had passed since brought Princess home. 3 months of recovery, celebration, and change. The story had spread across the entire galaxy like fire. Every species heard about the human who did the impossible, who refused to give up, who brought a dead princess back to life. Stood on a balcony in the royal palace, looking out at the crystal city below. He still could not quite believe he was here. For the first few weeks, he thought they would ask him to leave any day. But they never did. Queen insisted he stay as long as he wanted. Princess, still recovering, wanted to meet with him every day. "You look troubled," a voice said behind him. Turned. Princess walked onto the balcony. She looked much better now. Her crystal body glowed with healthy colors, pink and white and soft gold. She was still thin, still weak, but she was alive and getting stronger every day. "Your Highness," said, bowing slightly, "you should be resting." "I rest too much already," said with a smile. "The doctors say I need to move more, and I wanted to talk to you before tomorrow's ceremony." Tomorrow, the ceremony, had been trying not to think about it. "I don't deserve all this attention," said. "I just did what felt right." "That is exactly why you deserve it," said. She came to stand beside him at the railing. "Do you know what I remember from the crash?" Shook his head. "Very little," admitted. "I remember the battle, I remember the ship shaking, I remember my crew pushing me into the stasis pod. They told me to sleep, that help would come, and then nothing, darkness, for what felt like minutes but was actually 6 months." She looked at. "When I woke up, I thought I had died. I thought I was in the afterlife. But then I saw my mother's face and I knew I was alive. Do you know what my first thought was?" "What?" "I wondered who saved me, who cared enough to find me when everyone else had given up. The doctors told me it was a human, a salvage operator, someone who had no reason to help, no obligation, no duty. Just a stranger who decided that my life was worth fighting for." Tears formed in her eyes. "You gave me a second chance to live. You gave my mother back her daughter. You gave my people hope. How can we not honor that?" "I lost someone," said quietly. "My sister. I couldn't save her. Maybe I was just trying to save her through you." "Then you honored your sister's memory in the most beautiful way possible," said. "And I am honored to carry that memory with me." They stood in comfortable silence for a while, watching the sun set over the crystal city. The next day, the ceremony took place in the grand hall of the palace. Representatives from dozens of species attended, nobles in their finest clothing, human diplomats including Ambassador Sora, even some officials, though they looked uncomfortable, stood in the center of the hall, wearing formal clothes that felt strange on his body. He was used to old work suits and oil stains, not this. Queen sat on her throne, glowing brightly. Princess stood beside her mother, still weak but determined to be there. General stood at attention, his military uniform polished and proud. "Wu of Earth," Queen's voice rang through the hall. "You stand before the Empire as a hero. You achieved what our entire military could not. You found my daughter when we had abandoned hope. You risked your life, your freedom, and your safety to return her home. For this, the people owe you a debt that can never be fully repaid." She stood and descended from her throne. In her hands, she carried a crystal medallion on a chain. It glowed with its own internal light. "This is the Heart Friend medallion," said. "It has been given only 7 times in our 3,000-year history. It marks you as family to the royal house. You are no longer an outsider. You are one of us. Your name will be remembered in our history books for as long as the Empire exists." She placed the medallion around his neck. It was warm against his chest. The hall erupted in applause. Humans, and even the clapped, felt overwhelmed. He was just a salvage operator, a nobody, and now he was standing in a palace being honored by a queen. But the ceremony was not over. Ambassador Sora stepped forward. "On behalf of humanity, I also wish to honor Wu. You have shown the galaxy what humans are capable of, not through strength or technology, but through compassion and determination. You have made us all proud." Then, surprisingly, an official stepped forward. It was Captain, the same officer who had chased through the Crimson Belt. "I must apologize," Captain said stiffly. "I did not know what you carried. I did not know the importance of your mission. I called you a criminal. I tried to stop you. I was wrong. The collective officially withdraws all charges against you, and I personally thank you. You have shown us that sometimes the rules must be broken for something greater. That is a lesson we needed to learn." After the ceremony, there was a celebration. Music, food, dancing. Found himself surrounded by people wanting to meet him, to shake his hand, to hear the story firsthand. He told it so many times he lost count. Later, when the party was winding down, General approached. The large warrior looked uncomfortable. "I need to tell you something," said. "For 6 months I have carried guilt. I was supposed to protect Princess. I failed. She was lost because of my failure. I could not eat. I could not sleep. I believed I had destroyed my queen's life and my own honor." "It wasn't your fault," said. "It was war. Bad things happen in war." "Perhaps," said, "but that knowledge did not heal my heart. What healed my heart was you, a stranger who did what I could not do. You taught me something about humans that I will never forget." "What's that?" "Humans do not accept failure. You do not accept the impossible. When every rational being would give up, you keep trying. That is not a weakness. That is your greatest strength." Bowed deeply, a gesture of profound respect. The celebration continued into the night, but eventually slipped away. He went back to the landing platform where his ship was parked. The second chance had been repaired completely. It looked better than it had in years. The engineers had worked miracles on it. Sat in the pilot's seat and looked at the controls. This ship had carried him through so many adventures. It had saved Princess' life. It had earned its name. Thinking about leaving, Princess' voice came from behind him. "Jumped, Your Highness. You shouldn't be out here, it's late." "I followed you," she said, climbing into the co-pilot seat. "I had a feeling you were thinking about going home." "I've been away for 3 months," said. "I have a business to run, or I did. I don't know if anyone remembers me anymore." "The whole galaxy remembers you," said with a laugh. "But I understand. You miss your home, you miss your life." She looked at the stars through the window. Before you go, I want to show you something." She pulled out a data tablet and showed him a holographic display. It showed a new organization: ships, people, resources. The logo at the top said Second Chance Initiative. "What is this?" asked. "My new project," said. "The war left so many people lost and missing. For 6 months I was one of them. I know what it feels like to be alone in the dark, hoping someone will find you. This initiative will search for the missing. We will rescue those who need rescuing. We will bring people home just like you brought me home." She looked at, "General has volunteered to lead it. He wants to find others like me. He wants to save the people he could not save during the war. But we need someone to teach us how to search the way humans search. How to never give up even when it seems hopeless. We need you." Was quiet for a long moment. "I'm just a salvage operator." "No," said firmly. "You are the person who saved my life. You are the person who changed history. You are the person who showed us all what determination and compassion can accomplish. Please, help us help others." Looked at his ship's controls. Then he looked at the princess. She was so young and so full of hope and purpose. She was alive because he had refused to give up on her. How many others were out there, waiting for someone to refuse to give up on them? "Okay," said. "I'll help, but only if General promises to never chase me through another asteroid field." Laughed. It was a beautiful sound full of life and joy. "I think that can be arranged." Over the next few months, the Second Chance Initiative grew. They found 12 missing people from the war. 12 families were reunited. 12 impossible rescues that would never have happened if not for and his stubborn human refusal to accept defeat. The story of the human who saved the princess became legend. Children across the galaxy heard it as a bedtime story. Never give up, parents told their children. Be like the human, keep hopping. One day received a message from Earth. It was from his mother. She had heard the news. She had seen the videos. She knew what her son had done. "I am so proud of you," she wrote. "You saved that girl because you could not save Myra, but I want you to know something. Myra would be proud too. She always said you had the biggest heart of anyone she knew. She was right. I love you. Come home and visit when you can." Read the message 3 times. He felt the weight of grief that he had carried for 7 years begin to lighten. He had not saved his sister. He could not change that. But he had saved someone else's sister. He had saved someone else's daughter. And maybe, in some small way, that honored Myra's memory better than grief ever could. A year after the rescue, stood on the bridge of a new ship. It was bigger than the Second Chance, better equipped, built specifically for search and rescue. The name painted on its side was the Myra, named after his sister. Princess had insisted. General stood beside him, looking at a star map showing their next mission. 3 people missing from a mining accident. The other rescue teams had given up. The mine was too unstable. The chances were too low. "What do you think?" asked. "Should we try?" Smiled. It was the same smile he had worn when he decided to risk everything to save a princess he had never met. "We're human and," he said, "we don't know how to give up. Let's bring them home." The ship's engines roared to life. They jumped into hyperspace, heading toward another impossible rescue, because that is what they did now. That is what the Second Chance Initiative was built for, bringing hope to the hopeless, bringing light to the darkness, bringing people home. Behind them on Eris Prime, Queen stood at her window watching the stars. Princess stood beside her, healthy and strong now, working on plans for expanding the initiative even further. "Do you think they will succeed?" asked. "Yes," said without hesitation. "Because they refuse to fail. That is the gift humans have given us. Not technology, not weapons, but something far more valuable. They have given us the courage to keep hopping, to keep trying, to never accept that something is impossible." She touched the window, looking at the stars where her daughter had been lost and found. "They call it humanity's fuck yeah," said. using the human phrase that had become popular across the galaxy. It means doing the impossible simply because it needs to be done. It means caring when others stop caring. It means fighting when others surrender. It means hope. I like that, said HFY, humanity's fuck yeah. So do I, said, so do I. Somewhere in deep space, the Myra traveled through the darkness, carrying a human salvage operator and a general toward another rescue. Another family waiting to be reunited. Another impossible task that they would somehow make possible. Because that is what humans do. They do not give up. They do not accept defeat. They keep going when every logical being would stop. They care when caring seems foolish. They hope when hope seems impossible. And sometimes, just sometimes, they save a lost princess and change the galaxy forever. The end.